Well, hey, entrepreneurs, I hope you're crushing it today. This founder and her husband started a business in a parking lot, and they expanded that now to over 400 locations. And while we are doing this show, you will find out that her new book just reached USA #1 bestseller. And she's absolutely incredible. In addition to being a mom of three, an amazing co-founder and founder, she is someone who continues to develop herself and grow. And I was so inspired by our discussion in terms of how do you handle it when no one shows up? How do you navigate working with your husband and even navigating changes in the roles in the C-suite, and where she assumes the role of CEO and he steps down as CEO and assumes the role of chief visionary officer. And she's going to give these tangible things that she does in order to just constantly be improving. It's amazing. So Morgan Kline is the co-founder and CEO of Burn Bootcamp, and they are expanding like crazy. She hails originally from Battle Creek, Michigan. She started her career at the Kellogg Company, and she learned a lot while she was working there. And she and her then boyfriend, Devin, who had been released from a major league ball team, decided that they had a passion for fitness, and they started these boot camps in parking lots. And today she is a titan in the world of fitness and franchising. So with that, I hope you will enjoy my interview with Morgan Kline. And my ask is that this show, again, we get this out there to the world, and we have a production team. Please share the show, comment on the show. We'd love a 5-star review. My goal is to really inspire millions of people around the globe to start, grow, and really to start and scale businesses. So I would love that. If you have a suggestion for the show, please go to susanslide.com and just send a comment in. I read all those comments. And don't forget to stay after. I've got a very short startup diary for you. So you are either listening or you can head over to YouTube and watch it. So with that, enjoy the show with founder of Burn Bootcamp, Morgan Kline. This is Raw and Real Entrepreneurship, the show that brings the no-nonsense truth of what is required to start, grow, and scale your business. I am your host, Susan Slide. Well, what is up, Raw and Real Entrepreneurs, wherever you are in the world? I hope you are having an incredible day. And the guest that I have today, as I was sharing in the intro, is what she and her husband have accomplished is just nothing short of a miracle, to go from a parking lot to 400 locations. I mean, it's insane. And we were having this conversation. I was like, oh, I've got a show to do. So I always say, like, what happens before the show? I'm like, we've got to bring that into the show. But Morgan, first and foremost, thank you for being here on Raw and Real Entrepreneurship.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited for a fun chat today.
Oh, yeah. I mean, so many things we're going to talk about. Like, the first thing I want to go right into, there are a lot of listeners who are working in corporate jobs. They are frustrated. Entrepreneurship has kind of become almost a trend, right? Mm-hmm. Before, it was like a small percentage of people want to be entrepreneurs. Now, even for Gen Z, that is their number one thing. They want to be an influencer or an entrepreneur. And there you were working corporately for Kellogg. And like, first and foremost, what got you to that tipping point when you said, enough's enough, I need to start my own business?
Yeah, great question. And I think you're right about this just generation. We have so much more access than we did even 10 years ago to share influence and to be influential and to build a business. And I think that's something that's really incredible just about how technology has developed us. But yes, if I go behind, back to my college days, that was the American dream, is to graduate from college and get a job at a corporate, business that you could get 401k benefits and insurance benefits. And that is really where I grew up, in a small town of Battle Creek, Michigan. We're actually, that's where Kellogg's is headquartered. So I grew up smelling cereal on Saturday mornings, and I knew a lot of people in the area that worked for the headquarters. So once again, that to me was a really great opportunity. So I went to school in Western Michigan, and that's in Michigan as well. Well, Western Michigan. And I went into the food marketing program and got a job. I was an intern, got a job right out of college, moved to Naples, Florida. I was a sales rep. I was calling on 135 Publix, Walmarts, Winn-Dixie's, Sweetwater grocery stores. And as somebody who didn't ever have experience really outside of my hometown, that was a crazy experience for me, putting myself out there, walking into a store and just talking to the store manager who I had no rapport with. And I learned a lot of really great life lessons, but I knew I wanted more. I knew I wanted to climb that corporate ladder because that was just what was ingrained in me. So then I got a job, and I got promoted to Charlotte, North Carolina, and to work in an office. And I got to then learn like Excel skills and analytical skills. And I got to support an entire team. And all while this was happening, my high school sweetheart, Devin, had been drafted to the San Francisco Giants. So he played in their minor league baseball program. And so he's doing his thing. I'm doing my thing. We're both really like feeling good about our careers. And then he gets released, which really just means he gets fired from his job in the world of, minor league sports or even professional sports. And he kind of came to his crossroad of like, well, that was my plan A. Like that was my dream. Now what am I going to do? And so the whole time he wants to build a business, he wants to be a personal trainer. And he's like, how can I make this a business? He had experience with big box gyms and he knew what he didn't want in the fitness environment. And so when I did get promoted to Charlotte, which is where we are today, he decided to start his own boot camp. And we called it Burn Boot Camp. And we were 24 years old. We had no money other than my $65,000 Kellogg job. And so we started in a parking lot because no one would answer our phone call to say, yeah, we want to lease you a spot. So, I say all this because again, my plan A was still corporate. It was still Kellogg's. I never had put my thought around being an entrepreneur, leaving this safe job, partnering with my boyfriend at the time. We weren't even engaged yet. And doing something completely radically different. So what had happened was this business in a parking lot started to grow and grow and grow. And I started to see all the work he was pouring into it. I was helping him where I could, weekends, mornings, evenings. Evan became my own personal trainer so I could relieve him from having to train all the boot camps. And that was the tipping point for me, Susan, was when I started to see myself get this fulfillment that I didn't even know I was seeking. But when I could impact somebody in a positive way, I could see where my work was actually putting a smile on their face or helping them build confidence and helping them reach goals. That was for me a pull away from this safe job that I had this, great opportunity to continue to grow in. And so that's when I got to this crossroads and I was like, okay, what am I going to do? Like, I'm not even married to Devin yet. There was a lot of considerations. We're still in parking lots. We were in 5 parking lots at that point, getting ready to flip to brick and mortar, but we were still very young in our business. And it probably was a 6 to 8 month process for me to think through actually going in and quitting my job. And, what I say to young people now is I'm so grateful for those experiences. I was not ready to be an entrepreneur right out of college. I needed to learn what it was like to work with people in an office. I needed to learn, adversity. I needed to learn communication skills. I needed to learn how to get really uncomfortable and do something that was challenging. And so I'm grateful for those stepping stones for me. And I waited until it was the right financial move for me to actually leave my job. I didn't just do something on a whim, which is advice that I do give people. Like, hey, it's okay to want more for yourself and to want more for your life and to be an entrepreneur, but make a plan. You got to go about 50% planning, 50% like trust your gut instinct of like, what's this feeling I'm chasing? So for me, it was chasing a feeling. It was knowing that there was a real opportunity for me. And I knew that if I failed at that, then, hey, you know what? I'm going to go back and I'll go get that job again. And so now looking back in my Kellogg days and just that entire experience, again, I won't ever say negative things about corporate life and working a 9 to 5 job and working for somebody else. Like, well, because for one, it taught me so much of who I am today and how I'm able to lead. And also it's given me perspective though, because now I run an office of 100 people and, I have 9 gyms with 250 employees in those gyms, and we have a franchise system now. And so it was always really good perspectives of what do I even want my office to look like? What do I want my culture to be? How do I want to attract the right people so we can build something so great? And so hopefully that answered your question, but for me, it was a feeling. The tipping point wasn't a number or an activity. It was a feeling that I said, okay, I'm dreading going into work, and then I'm excited to get out of work so I can go be a personal trainer. And I wanted to feel that all the time.
Mm. And that it's interesting you say that, Morgan, because a lot of people that I've interviewed in 400 shows, it's like I reached a tipping point because of an event. And it's not always an event that has to do with work. It's an event like I want to be at home with my kids. I want flexibility, or my husband was diagnosed with cancer and I need to care for him. It's not always something. And we always want to be cautious as entrepreneurs about throwing shade at corporate life, because if you are really going to grow and scale a business, you are going to work in a corporate environment.
Yeah.
And many years ago, back in the 90s, I was working corporately for Bally Total Fitness when Bally Total Fitness was the largest health club chain in the world. And I was a manager at Bally's in Toronto. And the reality is there were some things I pulled from that experience in terms of even how I lead teams today. And so I love that you said that, but I want to push you back a little bit, because customer acquisition, who were the first people in the first parking lot and how did you find them? That's what I want to know.
Yes, it's a good question. We were in a brand new city. We had moved to Charlotte for my job. So Devin moved up from Naples as well. And we knew no one. We knew like 1 or 2 people that I worked with. So he started, this guerrilla marketing campaign, but we were very niche back then. So we were Charlotte's fit community of moms. So we have evolved a lot, and we'll talk about that a little bit when we talk about the brand and Burn Bootcamp. But we knew when we wanted to go into this space of boutique fitness, because we knew that's ultimately what we wanted. We wanted a boutique style workout that was geared towards women, but we even niched ourselves more to talk about mothers, because what we were able to do in the parking lot is we actually subleased in a gymnastics studio. So we always had child watch as well, because we knew one of the biggest barriers for moms to put themselves first and do something for themselves was their children. They want to feel that guilt of spending time away from them or it costing more money on their membership. And so one of the things that we've always had in Burn Bootcamp is complimentary child watch. And so again, that's who we were marketing for. And that's who we were going to events. We were going to businesses with like-minded women and mothers. And we were putting ourselves out there as Charlotte's greatest workout. You gotta believe it and say it before it's actually true. But that's what we did. And it started with 10 people in the first camp, and then maybe 8 people at the next camp and maybe 2 at the next. And then on the 4th day, no one showed up. And it's like, those are those moments where you can say, this isn't for us. This isn't, no one wants to do it. Or you can say, okay, we're still going to go through the motions. And so Devin still ran the camp on that Thursday, but then it's like people showed up. And back when we built this 2012, Facebook wasn't what it is today. From an advertising perspective, Instagram wasn't even around yet. So there wasn't this, and we didn't have the money. If it was around, we didn't even have the money to go blast a bunch of ads. So we knew it needed to be referral, and we needed to get people talking about the program and the workout and the community that we were creating through Burn Bootcamp. And so that is how we've grown in the beginning. But even today, it's a franchise system, and 90% of our franchisees came from within the system. That means they walked into a Burn Bootcamp just to get a workout, and they continued to come and said, I want to be a bigger part of this, and inquired about franchising. And so that's the community and the culture that we've built by just connecting like-minded people. And it started with moms, and then it evolved to women, and women now and their families. So we now have, a lot of men. We have about 6% male membership. And now I'm seeing people that we used to bring their babies in and they're 13 and now they're working out and able to do the workout. So,
And even like you and I were talking about before the show, because when I think about in my research preparing for our show, the early burn boot camp attendees, those women are now in perimenopause. Like we were seeing, I entered perimenopause at age 38 after I had my last child, who's now 14. And so thinking about who these users are, and one of the things I admire about what you and Devin have built, and I said this to you before the show, is that flexibility, right? So as an entrepreneur, you can start super niche, but then it's how do we expand and be more inclusive? I love what you said. You have to say it and believe it. I want to talk about that for a minute.
yeah.
Because there's an entrepreneurial saying like, fake it until you make it. And some people interpreted that, Morgan, as I've got to go lease a car I can't afford, and I've got to, put a $5,000 suit on credit, and I've got to do that. What you're saying and your come from is so different. Can you talk about like speaking into existence something that isn't there yet, and how you wrapped your mind around that? Or did it just come naturally to you?
No, I think it's a strong mind-body connection that Devin and I have always had, and had that from our backgrounds, just with some things that we experienced as kids, and just wanting to kind of run from that pain and saying, okay, I have to believe in myself, right? Because there's going to be people every day that you experience that do not believe in you. They don't believe in what you're going to do, and they are going to throw a lot of shade towards it. You have to have that mental strength to say, if I don't believe it and I don't walk with that confidence, then how can I ever expect somebody else to be attracted to me? Because that's energy. That's energy that you're going to put off. If your mindset is telling you negative things about just even yourself or your ability to get to the next version of yourself, you'll start, it's all going to start to come to fruition. So do you want positive thoughts or do you want negative thoughts to come to life? And we believe in that a lot. We talk about it in our book. We talk about it at Burn Boot Camp, and we walk it in our daily lives right now. And so once you do things like that and you start to fake it till you make it and put things out in the universe, you're really setting these North Star goals. You're saying, this is my vision. This is how I want life to live. And then what are the things that you need to start telling yourself every single day that's going to get you to that space? Because once you get there, it's a rep, and you've built confidence in yourself. And you got to continue to build those reps, because confidence is not something that you just get one time and then it's there for the rest of your life. You got to keep putting yourself in situations that are scary and that maybe don't make a ton of sense, but the belief that you have in yourself gives you the confidence to get through things that you maybe once didn't think was possible. And I translated that a lot to working out in our gym or working out in any gym. When you say, okay, I could pick up the 15s or I could pick up the 20s, you go and make a choice, right? You go pick up the 20s, maybe doubting, I don't think I can do that. But just the fact that you did it, you tried, you believed that you could pick up those 20s, even if you only got 5 reps, you have worked that confidence muscle in a very small way. And when you do hard things like that and you build that little confidence every single day, it transcends outside of fitness into what you're doing every single day. So we're big proponents of putting the future out there, speaking vision, having vision, and making sure that your thoughts and your actions align with what that vision looks like.
And that's so huge. Like you're talking to the girl who I have Post-its on my bathroom mirror, portable vision boards. Like I do it all. And I love that you said that, like speaking it into existence. Like we have a slide on our pitch deck for the pause that I've envisioned what women were like in pre-prod release, right? And I have this slide, Morgan, envisioning what women are going to say about the app. And I was doing an investor pitch the other day, and I was like, this is what women are going to say. This is our vision of what they're going to write in the app store. This is what they're going to tell each other. It's not like, are you using the pause? It's like, why aren't you using the pause? Like, why wouldn't you be doing that? And it's that same thing. I want to go back to something you said. So I love that. And I can't wait to read your book. We're going to talk about the book in a minute. Like I'm such an avid reader. Like I have I have a very, I'm going to say addiction, like strong addiction to books. I can't go even through an airport. I can have a hardcover, and I love hardcover books. I can have a hardcover in my purse and I'm still going to buy two more. Like it's like we're unpacking
Yeah.
at our new house and I am surrounded by like boxes of books right now. But anyway, you said you and Devin, like, there's 10 people one night, 8 the next, there's 5, there's 2. And then one night, like no one's there. I want to talk about the mindset of how you manage that, because you work with your now husband and you have 3 young children, but go back then to your 24-year-old minds. Like,
Yeah.
how did you manage it the first time it happened?
Yeah. It is hard to put myself back in those shoes in that time where we're not today. But I would say, man, I have a lot of thoughts in my head right now, but because I'm so glad we kept showing up, excuse me. So glad we kept showing up, because I think for us, it wasn't about us. It was about who we wanted to serve. And so that is what's carried me through so many times of doubt, whether that was something didn't launch well, or, we're not getting the response that we wanted or that we thought. Maybe we're not hitting the goal that we set out for ourselves. But it's not about me. It's not about Devin. It's not about the goal that we set for ourselves. It's about who are we serving and how well are we serving them. And so when I think about these times and these milestones, one being when people didn't show up to, on a Thursday, the 4th day, I just think about if we would have given up, wow. Like now I'm able to look back and say, wow, over, 125,000 people right now today wouldn't have a gym home, wouldn't have a home, wouldn't call a place like they do Burn, their gym home. And connections wouldn't have been built that have been built through this brand. And, lives changed, lives saved, lives transformed, And so for me, it's about always keeping a mentality that it is not about me, and it's about the people. And if you don't know who you want to serve, right? Like you just said, you already have it in your mind who you're going to serve and what they're going to say and how they're going to feel when they experience your app, and how their life is going to change and the choices that they're going to make are going to change. And then they're going to tell their friends about it, and then their lives are going to be changed. Like you're able to visualize that because you can think of who you're serving. And I think even in the beginning moments where Devin and I were still building what we wanted, it still was always about how do we serve as many people? It's our mission statement. It's even if it's one life, even if one person showed up, because I've had so many camps where just one person showed up.
Yeah.
But I don't care. I didn't close it down. I didn't leave early. I waited 15 minutes, and if they still showed up, I still trained them because they So when you're focused on how you can serve others versus other people serving you, I think that it does put external pressure on you to keep moving and to keep working hard and to keep showing up, because on the other side of that, someone will be impacted and their life will change.
Absolutely. And even, it's quite obvious you are so committed to being the next best version of yourself before you become the next best version of yourself. Yeah. And after interviewing hundreds of entrepreneurs, and I would even say that, it's things I'd never even talk about, but like in the past when I would spend like keynote in front of 20,000 people on stage in Las Vegas, and just, traveling the world to developing countries, working with women who received microloans in Cambodia and all these different things. I've narrowed that down, that moment, which everyone's going to face, where no one shows up, or you get the rejection. They don't want to invest in your company, or no one can see your product idea, or whatever it is. And there are only 2 types of people. There's what I call MBD, which is we look at it and it sucks, but we go, how do we do something more, better, different? So like maybe we need to talk to more people to get more people in that room or better? How do we improve? Maybe it's better time. Maybe we don't know yet. Maybe this isn't the right time on a Thursday because maybe we're in Atlanta, we're competing with the Braves game. I don't know. I'm just making that up. Or how do we do something different? Maybe the class initially is 75 minutes. Maybe we have to offer 45 minutes, whatever it is. But there are the MGB people, and then there are like yourself and Devin, and then there are the people who go, well, this just proves this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why I wanted you to share that story, because for people listening, and I want everyone to buy the book. For people listening, you have to be an MDB person if you're going to be a successful entrepreneur. Like you just do.
Yep.
And you're going to have those wall kicking moments. All right. Now I need to ask you the real question.
Yes.
You work with your husband.
Yes.
I work with my husband. I met my husband in high school. You also high school. I have been with my husband for 24 years, but I have known him, Morgan, for 38 years.
Okay. Wow.
Almost 39. And our dads were best friends in high school. And so I met him in this small town, like 20,000 people. And sometimes he drives me crazy and I drive him crazy. Okay. But you have managed. So Devin was CEO. You recently took over as CEO. What I want to ask is, you don't have to spill the tea on your marriage, but obviously there are times when you are disagreeing about something. How do you handle that as a couple who works together professionally? Like, what tips would you give on that?
Yeah. And listen, what I'm about to say is, it's through a lot of hard lessons. Like we had to learn it the hard way by just a lot of trial and error, a lot of looking at each other sometimes and saying, okay, we got to do something different. Lots of moments of frustration, both in our business and in our marriage. Then you add on 3 babies. So there's been a lot, right, that we have had to navigate and go through with all the growth in just family and profession. But we've taken on a responsibility of being, the founders of the brand and being the CEO, and he's the visionary, and we're still here every single day. And we know that if we're not congruent, like our office will know it, and that therefore our system will know it. And we won't be able to ever truly do what we want to do or get to the next versions of ourselves, because we'll be in each other's way. And so I would say probably about 5 years ago, we started reading the book Rocket Fuel. So it's in the EOS library. Gino Wickman and Mark Winters, I believe, co-authored that. And so it was before the pandemic, we read it. And it was truly him and I, integrator and a visionary, and why you need both in the company, and what the visionary should be and what the integrator should be. And I felt like I was reading a book about Devin and I. And that is when I started to have that aha moment of like, Devin's not in the right seat and I'm not in the right seat. And we keep getting in each other's ways. And we're creating this whiplash for our leaders. And he had half the leadership team. I had the other half of the leadership team. And so we knew that we needed to make a change, and we knew that he needed to step out of CEO, and we didn't want to bring somebody external in. We knew that we wanted to keep that control and make sure that we were protecting the culture. And we knew that I had what it took to do that. I had a lot of fear. I didn't think I had what it took, but he knew I had what it took. And so we moved into CEO and visionary. And so now he doesn't have any direct reports, and he focuses on the vision of the brand, the innovation of the brand. And then I take a lot of that vision and I integrate it into the company. And I think when you can realize where each other's strengths are, you can just appreciate one another on a different level. And that's not just in entrepreneurship. That is also in marriage. That is in, everything that you do with somebody, any relationship that you have, that you're trying to accomplish something together. It's like, okay, what are you good at and what am I good at? And let's not compete with each other, and let's not try to step on one another's toes. So I think that shift for us was very helpful for the business and helpful for us, but it also created a new transition and some tension for us, because now he was like not in meetings, I'm in meetings, and he was like a little impatient about certain things. And I'm like, wait a minute, like you gotta trust me here. So we had to learn how to like really communicate with each other. So we've done communication training. It's called nonviolent communication. So continuing to invest in each other and invest in ourselves has helped us a lot. And then it's systems and creating space. So one of the systems that we use is we have a 4-hour same page meeting once a month. And this is where we go offsite. We're not in the office and we're not at home. So we go to a restaurant or a coffee place or whatever. And that is where he's able to go, okay, got all these vision bombs, Morgan, like here's what's on my mind. And then you give me updates on the business a little bit. And we don't have any distractions, and we have an agenda. We check in with each other personally, and then we go through our professional list. And what that has avoided is me being at home wanting to be wife and mom, and him coming into and saying, hey, let's talk about business. Because that's really what it is. When you wear a lot of hats, and somebody like comes at you and you're not ready to wear that hat, or they didn't ask you what hat you're wearing, that causes conflict, and that causes like fights, or that causes us to be like resentful of each other. So we've learned to say, hey, what hat are you wearing right now? Because I want to talk about work. But if you're not in the mindset to talk about work because you're at home and you're with the kids and we're out doing a family thing, I have to respect that. And we'll talk about it on Monday morning when you put it on the calendar. And that takes discipline, and I think then it's also the same thing. Like when we're at work, like I can't treat him like he's my husband. I need to treat him like he's the visionary, and he needs to treat me like I'm the CEO. And that's kind of how we do it, is like, what hat are you wearing and what environment are we in? And that's the roles that we're playing. But it's come with, like I said, a lot of trial and error, a lot of times where if I'm stressed at work as the CEO, sometimes I'm like, you don't even understand because you're not in it every day right now, and there can be resentment. But again, if I go back and I appreciate the role that he's playing right now, and then the role that I'm playing, then we can come together and I can actually talk to him about what I'm stressed about. And sometimes that's all it is just getting it out.
It's huge.
Yeah, if you can't communicate, then I mean, and then you're likely going to have something fail in your life, or you're going to be very stressed out.
Absolutely. You've got to fix the communication. And a girlfriend of mine said to me, we were at this massive tech conference, and, like it's amazing conference and cocktails, right? And I have this amazing girl tribe of technologists, and we all like are at the same things. And she said, Susan, it's interesting with a marriage. So in business, let's contract together, our companies. Mm-hmm. And that contract had a 2-year with an option to renew. We'd sit down with a team and we'd renew the contract. And we would expect that both companies would be in a different place in those 2 years. We don't do that with a marriage. So we marry someone maybe in our 20s, and then we're like, still living in that marriage 20, 30 years later, going, wait a minute, we're different people now. Why haven't we updated the contract? And so one of the things I did, Morgan, coming back from that, I said to my husband, I was like, now that we're growing a new company, because he was the CFO of our last startup and he's the CFO of this company, is, when we're two different people now. We have different experiences, different things going on, different stage of our life. Our youngest child is 14. That's so different. And I was like, babe, we need to make a new contract. Like, who are we being? Who do we want to be? How do we want to show up? How do we want to communicate? And that's something we're working on now. This is called Raw and Real Entrepreneurship. So I'm throwing it out there. Yeah. And that it's just like, for me, it's like a workout. So if I go to burn, unless I can't think of a reason why, I would never not finish my workout. I'm a former Ironman distance triathlete. I finished my Ironman with a fractured pelvis. I'm a finisher. It's the same thing with my marriage. I'm not going to tap out because no one showed up in the parking lot, or it's, whatever is happening. We've got to figure it out. And I wrote them down, the nonviolent communication, the 4-hour offsite, reading the book Rocket Fuel. And I love those tangibilities. And I know there are so many things I want to ask you, but what I really want to talk to you about is the book, because you've given some glimpses into building this business. And I just want to level set for all the listeners. Seriously, parking lot to 5 parking lots to the brick and mortar to growing up a franchise, and now like a new location, going into new states, going into Montana as a new state. And to do this all, hats off to you, my friend, having babies, building with your husband, growing as a person yourself, being positive, doing the work. And as a woman, in it just, Morgan, like seriously. And now let's add to that amazing, illustrious resume, author. So
Yeah.
talk about the book, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yes, thank you. Well, yeah, and it just released. Well, I'm not sure when this podcast will release, but it came out June 18th, and we actually found out today, while you and I are recording this, that we are a bestseller on USA Today. So super exciting, and we're gonna find out tonight about New York Times list. But this book is a love letter to our members, is what we like to say. And this book isn't a business book per se, but this book it's got 14 real stories of members that have had transformations at Burn Boot Camp. And I think when you share all the accolades that I've accomplished, and I really appreciate those kudos, but for me, I just go back to who I serve, and I serve incredible women. And when I get to hear stories of, I found my identity again when I started coming back to Burn and putting myself first, and it saved my life. There's people that were freed from addiction, and their life was, they wanted to commit suicide, and working out, and the environment that they were placed in at Burn Boot Camp saved them. I mean, it's just, the stories are incredible. And so what we do is we talk about our 5 different strategies, but we also call those the 5 pillars at Burn Boot Camp. And it's burn, believe, nourish, achieve, and connect. So number 1 is burn. That is doing something challenging every single day. Like, we love Burn Boot Camp, but that might mean something different to you. Maybe it's riding your bike. Maybe it's going for a walk. Maybe it's whatever it is, but how are you doing a demanding workout? And that's different for everybody. And we believe very heavily that every workout needs to be different for somebody. It's going to be challenging to them based on their fitness level, their age, what's going on in their life, any injuries they might have. And so it's not a one size fits all. Burn is not a one size fits all. So we talk about that as the first strategy. Number 2 is believe. And we talked about that a little bit earlier in the podcast. It's what's going on in between your ears, because if that can't be right, nothing else is going to follow, right? The mind-body connection is a real thing. And so what you believe is what you are going to become. And so we talk about, how can you get your mind right? How can you get your belief system to be a positive one? What are the words you're speaking to yourself? Are they words of winners or words of losers? Who are you allowing to come inside here? And then what are they saying to you? So that's our second strategy. Number 3 is nourish. So what's your nutrition like? How are you fueling your body? Because there's not bad food out there. We like to have a really positive approach on food, because we know a lot of women especially have dealt with either food addictions or body dysmorphia or eating disorders. And so how can we approach food as nourishment and fuel us, that either give us that good feeling or that not so good feeling? So we have 50 recipes in there that you can make under 10 minutes. And then the 4th strategy is achieve. So this is another thing you and I talked about, which is setting a vision for yourself, right? Saying you're the greatest trainer before you become the greatest trainer. And what is your North Star? If you don't have a feeling or a goal or something that you want to achieve, and I'm not talking earn $1 million. I'm talking, what do you want? How do you want your day to look? What are the feelings you want to have? Who do you want to surround yourself with? If you don't think about that, life is just going to go like in any direction, and you will not have control of it. So we believe in like taking control, taking power back, creating a vision for yourself, and then giving you those tools to actually achieve it. And then last but not least, which is my favorite, is connect. And that is the community. That is what has made Burn Boot Camp so special. There's tons of workouts out there. There's tons of boutique fitness out there. But what keeps people is the community and the people that they get to surround themselves with. Because when you have that, you do, everything else can start to fall in line. If you've got negative people around you, that's what you're going to believe. If you have positive people around you that are holding you accountable, that love you for exactly who you are today, but can also cheer you on for who you want to become, that's going to give you motivation to make them proud too. So community is that last one, that connect strategy. So that's what we talk about in the book. We've got workouts in here for anyone that maybe doesn't want to be connected to an app, or maybe not ready to walk into a gym right now. We've got workouts in here. We've got the recipes, and then 14 amazing stories and all of those 5 strategies to inner and outer health. Inner and outer strength, because you can be physically strong, right? We can have bicep muscles, we can have a 6-pack, but what's your mental 6-pack look like? What's that inner strength look like? And that's what we're after at Burn Boot Camp. And we're doing that through the gateway of fitness, but we want to help people become, mentally strong, emotionally strong, spiritually strong.
Yeah. And that's huge. Like we need to be just like throwing it out there. We need to be inspired as a, this is a global show, but as a world, it's so easy to focus on what's not happening. It's so easy to focus on your gaps, not your gains. Yeah. And my hope for the readers of the book, Morgan, is regardless of maybe there's no Burn Boot Camp near them, but it inspires them, as you say, to get on their bike again, or to, enter a 5K, or to do something that fuels their soul. And that's huge. And I see so clearly, and I, again, as I told you before we started the show, is like I said to our show producer, I'm like, Tisha, like, I have to interview Morgan, because I'm so impressed, my sister, with what you've accomplished. I've just spent the last several weeks lecturing on the stats on startups for women. And yes, you did this with your husband, but at the end of the day, you're still juggling so many other things. And, and I love that you continue to do the work on yourself. It's awesome. And congratulations, USA Times bestseller. By the time you all see this, probably New York Times bestseller. Go get the book Burn. And again, links will be in the show notes. But Morgan, thank you just so much for being here.
I appreciate it. This was great convo. Thanks for letting me chat and talk to your audience.
Absolutely. Well, everyone, Morgan and I would love a 5-star review. So on iTunes, wherever we have Spotify, just like drop us 5 stars. Also, do share on social, tag us. We would love that. If you have questions about the show, just go to susansly.com. And with that, Morgan, thank you so much. I can't wait to see Burn Boot Camp on the moon. I'm sure that's coming.
We're working on it. Thank you so much.
All right, everyone. With that, this is another episode of Raw and Real Entrepreneurship, and I will see you in the next episode. All right, it's startup diary time and getting raw and real. I am newly in our Montana house. There are still boxes and boxes to unpack. So I'm going to swivel something, and our show producer is going to be beside herself when I show you boxes of stuff. I got here 2 nights ago from the time I'm recording this, and I've been traveling. I was at the Hewlett-Packard Enterprise HP Discover event in Las Vegas in the Sphere, which is huge. It seats about, 18,000 people or something. And I was there in the second row when HP CEO Antonio Neri and Jensen Huang, CEO of NVIDIA, announced their new collab and the ability to offer private cloud in t-shirt sizing, which if you don't know what I'm talking about, that's totally cool. I was so nerded out. And it was awesome. We also had a private concert for the attendees with the Grateful Dead. I haven't listened to a Dead song in, many, many years, but it was also in the Sphere, and to see all the graphics going across, it was amazing. And HPE behind our startup has put significant marketing dollars into our company. And so I was interviewed in the media. I had the privilege of being on stage. They also asked me to host a peer-to-peer roundtable with enterprise level executive decision makers on menopause. That just hasn't happened before. And as great as that all sounds, and it was fun, and the parties and the fashion and you name it, seeing my friends, I came back and I was really tired. And in fact, on the last day, that evening, I was supposed to go out with a friend of mine to a Cirque du Soleil show, and my throat was hurting. I'm very, very sensitive to cigarette smoke, and I was exhausted. I hadn't been sleeping. And in the past, I would have said, I'm just going to push through. I did not have it in me to push through. And one of the things that I've learned as a CEO and as a founder is, what is the best use of my time? And how do I show up in my power? Because I also knew that we had been chosen out of 180 startups to be a select group of startups to pitch this specific venture fund. And I needed to leave Las Vegas, go back to Scottsdale, and prepare for this pitch. And so instead of pushing through, I said, I'm really sorry. I am not feeling well. I gave away the tickets to another friend of mine who's a founder of a company. And I went back to Scottsdale and I took care of myself. And I was able to show up for that pitch the following Monday morning and be in my power, to be clear, to be healthy. And it took me a long time to get to that point where I really know myself so well now that when my well is empty, pushing through just means that there's going to be a domino effect and other things are going to suffer. And I would say in this week's diary, something I want you to think about is, do you really know yourself? Do you know what it takes for you to show up in your power at 100% of where you need to be? And, for me, that means when I've had an event like Discover, where it's like, go, early morning, late evening, all of that for me, it's coming back, it's getting good workouts in. That helps to fill my well, taking time to pray, to meditate, to journal, to reflect on all the gains, to be able to have that quiet time, to actually not speak to other humans, just to take a breather and go, okay, just, some people, if you've ever seen me on stage, that, I've done big speaking events, like 20,000 people and so on. They think I'm naturally an extrovert, but the reality is I am a lot of the times introverted, but I can be a situational extrovert, and I can put myself out there. But I do need to balance that with having that time. And so I did the things that I know helped to reset me and to bring me back. And that I did the pitch in the morning. That afternoon, I flew to Montana. And now I have all the unpacking to do, and we're building our product, and we are getting ready for our first version release, which is a small test group. And then we'll have a very quick fast follow second test release for a bigger group. And then we're planning on a big release for the product. And I am really excited to share a life-changing product with women who are going through perimenopause and menopause. And I keep thinking about the lives we're going to change and what we're creating. And that's what keeps me going. And at the end of the day, just being true to myself and knowing what I need in order to show up and to be that CEO and founder that creates that life-changing product. That's what I'm doing. And saying no or tapping out of something that is going to be fun and amazing is really hard. But making those hard decisions, especially if you know how that's going to affect you, that's what being a CEO is all about. So with that, that's this week's Startup Diary. Drop a comment below. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube. Please do comment, share, and tag me. So bye. I'm going to go to my next meeting and then go unpack.